What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today's video, we're questioning the age-old saying of respect your elders. Now I've got a number of different things that have come up when I've done my little Google search. I'm going to read a couple of them to you, but I wanted to start off with this core answer to the question of, does everyone inherently deserve respect, or do they have to earn it? And so the answer that they've got here is, respect is a funny word. It's used for two entirely different things, one of which is earned and one of which is given. And I think ultimately this is going to end up being where my sort of the point that I'll end up making in this video will lead, because I think that's an excellent point to bring up right off the get-go. So respect can just mean consideration and empathy that any human being deserves simply by virtue of being human, as in we should respect individual autonomy, or I respect your agency. That kind of respect is freely given. Like, you're not going to go out and be a functioning member of society without being considerate of others and having some level of empathy for other people. Respect can also mean a submission to authority, such as respecting the law or, a particular person. In this case, our elders deserve respect, because that submission to their authority, as having in an elderly person's case more life experience, is sort of, as a younger person, you are submitting to their authority, as they've had more life experience, so therefore they have a greater pool of experience to pull from in order to give life advice, I guess, is sort of where I'm sort of seeing that particular train going. I mean, there's other parts that you could look at there as well, but ultimately we sort of look to our elders as being the embodiments of the past, and therefore taking advice from them is sort of a first-hand way to learn what the mistakes of the past were, so that we can avoid making them in the future, essentially. There's obviously other parts as well, but these are the bits that I'm going to focus on. So the problem is that there are people who feel entitled to the second kind of respect, often who do not treat others with the first kind. And this is sort of where my particular question crops up, because similar to the question posed in the August social commentary video that I did, where I asked if millennials were, as a generation, entitled. In that good old debate, this is sort of the looking at the boomers side of thing, like if millennials are entitled, does that mean that boomers do everything perfectly, or we're sort of looking at the same issue, just the other generation involved, essentially. And for a lot of older boomers, and even some remaining silent generation people, they just seem to emphasis on seem to just expect that you submit to their authority because they've lived longer, they've got more life experience. So obviously what they say must be right, without putting into consideration the fact that times have changed since they were the same age as millennials currently are. And so that's sort of where, like, I'm looking at this second type. Consideration and empathy, as the core bit says, should be freely given, and that should be expected for anyone, regardless of age, regardless of nationality and ethnicity, regardless of sexual orientation and gender identity and expression, regardless of religious belief, political affiliation, all those sorts of things. Level of ability, like, it does not matter. That sort of respect should be freely given. We're looking at the submission to authority respect. So we've got an article here, North Texas Daily, October 17th last year, this article was posted, and it reads, it starts off with the quote, "Respect to elders. A phrase society deems so important it continues to recycle it through generations today. However, I'm here to tell society age does not warrant respect and bad attitudes are bad no matter how many years come with it. This is not meant to bash the older generation. We should all realise without them, the world as we know it would not exist today. That being said, older people are allowed to get away with a lot of things because of their age. Now, I don't mean discounted prices and the good seats on public transportation, but the overall lack of respect for younger people and disregard for how we feel." And again, there are members of those generations that do respect, do have the first kind of respect for younger generations. And in some cases, where particularly with computers, they will acknowledge and sort of, in some cases, submit to the second, submit to the authority, the second type of respect in a particular aspect. Of course there are. Again, as this is saying, we're not hating on boomers. My dad's a boomer. My aunt, like his sister, is also a boomer. So, like, there are boomers that I know intimately. So we're not hating on them, we're not bashing them. But there are older people who just seem to think that the younger generation have it too easy, and therefore, because they've got it that easy, that gives them an excuse to not extend a full extent of consideration and empathy for how what they say might affect that particular person. So the issue with immediately granting someone respect because of their age is it takes away from the weight that respect holds. And this is an excellent point. I love that. So when the phrase "respect your elders" is demanded from our parents at a young age, it makes it difficult to differentiate who actually deserves respect and who doesn't, regardless of age. We learn it's okay to be treated unfairly by someone else or because their age forces us to do so, which can lead to people like, there are people that I work with that seem to just live in fear of, being called into the boss's office, because being older than they are, they must deserve respect because they're an elder. They're also higher on the hierarchy within the business, so that also grants them an extra level of respect. And it gets to the point where they're just like, they're boss fearing, and they just become yes people. And I find that like, even though their point is to try and like seem as respectful as possible, I feel if I was in that position that my boss is in, that just having boss fearing yes people would feel in and of itself disrespectful. Like, maybe that's just me, but it really just irritates me that they're like, oh no, we can't do that because the boss will freak out. Let the boss freak out. Let them. Because that means that they'll come and ask us what our reason for doing a certain thing was, and then inform them why we made the decisions we made, and have a conversation about it, like actual humans. And that's just me. So yeah, so ask yourself what you've allowed someone to say to you because you've been respecting your elders. Like, think about, you know, whether it's an older person at church, or just like society as a whole, especially with like the aging population, with the boomers in particular. Like, society as a whole, you know, has this idea of getting married by a certain age, having kids by a certain age. Like, think about how what they've told you has made you feel, particularly when you're looking at, like, if you're trying to measure your life by what society thinks you should have done by certain ages. Like, for some of these people, when they were our age, they were going off to fight in World War II, or going to Vietnam, or any of the other like major conflicts in the 20th century. So it's not like there's not really any major wars at the moment. Yes, there's like the war on terrorism, but other than that, there's no like big world wars. We're in a, relatively speaking, peaceful age at the moment. It's, yeah. Anyway, as Gen Z and millennials, it's often thrown in our faces that we are self-entitled and lazy by our elders. The entire purpose of that August video, which if you haven't seen it, I will link in the description for you. Apparently we don't work as hard because our plethora of opportunities affords us the luxury of slacking. However, I believe any opportunity Gen Z and millennials worked towards getting was by our own design. Absolutely. I think the not it's not what you know, it's who you know part definitely plays a role. And with social media being such a big part of millennial and Gen Z lives, we can get to know people really well without actually ever meeting them in person. Like, we can have internet friends that can just give us the hookup, you know? So the fact that we are more diverse, college educated and gender equal warrants us more respect from our elders. And I think that that sentence is comparing that to what we currently receive. So we, more than what we currently receive, not more respect than our elders. So things these days look different from what they did in the past. Even though we struggle just as much as our elders, our plight looks easier due to our technological advances and certain shifts in history over time. Younger generations cannot account for what happened in the past. We're just using what we have now to make something of ourselves like our elders had to do. So why should we be looked down on because we do so? Age has become another artificial topic meant to control and manipulate younger people into submitting to the norms of others. It is yet another censor society is thrown into the mix of taboo topics and hushed conversations. The biggest issue does not necessarily come from having to respect elders, but the blatant disregard for hearing what someone has to say because of their age. It is important to note automatic respect isn't even respect. Respect is earned not through how many years you've been on this earth, but by the actions that define your character. We should pay attention to what our elders have to say because they do have wisdom we have yet to reach. That is a fact that cannot be argued. However, age is not an indicator of a person deserving respect. Respect is gained by treating others equally and with kindness. So essentially, the second level of respect, the submission to authority, should only be earned through someone showing you the first kind. Because if they're not going to show you that first kind, they don't really deserve the second kind, do they? And that is how respect becomes a self-perpetuating cycle. So the phrase respect to elders should not be used as a weapon to control a person's opinions and genuine feelings. The person who wrote this article states here that they know older people have definitely disrespected them before, yet they remained silent to not risk getting into trouble. Why is it okay for them to be demeaned, while the other person walks away without knowing it's not okay to treat them with no respect? As the world changes, we should start teaching those who come after us to respect all people. Racial division, climate change, and bad habits all stemmed from older generations. If we had some respect for everyone, regardless of age or anything else, we could bridge the gaps of disconnect and make the world a better place. Beautifully stated. I don't think I really need to add anything to that, but I'm going to. An article from The Hill. This one posted way back in 2018. Respect your elders is a lot more than a banal platitude. How long does this one go for? Can't even see there. Okay, hopefully we can breeze through this. It's not too long, but it could be lengthy. So the author is just writing in the first person for this whole thing. So they've got, from a young age, I knew I had a future in, we can skip that bit. Respect your elders is an adage older than the individual it urges us to revere. But for ours to be a healthy and functioning society, we need to do more than just respect our elders. In life, business, and beyond, we need to listen to them, be inspired by their experiences, learn from their mistakes, and lift them up as they did for us. Respect of elders is usually invoked to accuse younger generations of disrespect or shaming them into conforming to standards of the past. But that's not what it's really about. Yes, youth comes with inherent naivety and with age, wisdom, they always have. But using respect as a command in this fashion seems to prescribe a negative connotation to the idea. It turns it into a scolding when it should be so much more. Respect is, after all, defined as a feeling of deep admiration for someone or something elicited by their abilities, qualities, or achievements. This feeling applies to our relationship to those who come before us, and rightly so. The lives we enjoy come as a result of those who fought for our rights and more specifically gave birth to and raised us. That's deeply admirable, and even where one may disagree with their elders, and even where one may disagree with their elders, worth paying due regard. Feels like that is an incomplete sentence, but that's the full sentence. But admiration and respect exist solely as feelings, and feelings aren't enough to turn our relationships with our elders into productive, active ones that make sense in our modern day. This article argues, so yes, respect your elders, but do more than just that. For example, so from that definition, they're going with the, they've sort of introduced a third kind. It's just like an admiration for somebody, but based on their abilities, qualities, and achievements. So we're looking at the first type in this article, not the second type. And it's the second type of the respect our elders. Okay, this is good. We're getting a little bit of both sides here. For some backstory, the person that wrote this article found at the beginning the bit that I skipped over, which you can read for yourself. But basically, they said that from a young age they knew that they were going to work in elder care. So this is someone whose whole job revolves around respecting their elders. So for example, we could celebrate our elders Older people have overcome obstacles that many of us will never face. Their achievements and longevity are well worth celebrating, and not just at birthdays and funerals. There are cultures which incorporate this philosophy into their traditions and daily lives. In Greece, all older people are addressed with honorifics, a celebration that Ariana Huffington described in her book Becoming Fearless. The idea of honouring old age, indeed identifying it with wisdom and closeness to God, she wrote, is in startling contrast to the way we treat aging in America. It's true that in Western culture, aging, especially visible aging, is viewed as a shameful process, or at least implied as such by the pervasive worship and pursuit of youthfulness. Probably not helped by the beauty industry either. Youth has its perks certainly, but aging is inevitable. Why not celebrate this life stage instead of stigmatise it? They've also got, we can learn from our elders. Though trends toward vintage clothing and silver hair might imply otherwise, respect and mimicry aren't one and the same. We should aspire to learn from our elders instead of just admiring them. That means taking an interest. Ask your parents and grandparents about their lives and engage with the older members of your community. What have they been through and how has it informed their point of view? As it happens, there will always be disagreement, ideologically and otherwise, between generations, but we can't learn or support our own beliefs if we can't understand those outside our worldview. Youth comes part and parcel with mistake making, and every older person was young once, not to mention imperfectly human throughout their lives. We can also be inspired by our elders, support them. I'm going to leave those last two bits for you to read on your own, but essentially this article is making the case that yes, elders just inherently deserve respect, and here's why. Whereas the North Texas Daily article is no, they don't inherently deserve respect, and here's why. Both of these come down to which level of respect are we looking at. The first level, where it's simply just a consideration and empathy, a general sort of like admiration sort of thing, or is it the second one where we're like submitting to their authority because they have a greater pool of experience and wisdom that's come with age, and we should just inherently submit to that. So yeah, we've got some good arguments from either side here. I sort of sit more towards this side. Like this side made some good points, and there's a lot on this side that I agree with, but I think I'm sort of able to draw a spectrum along the bottom of the screen here, and right over here is they deserve respect, and right over here, second kind, and right over here is they need to earn second kind. I think I would sit sort of here, like still pretty centered, but not so extreme that I disagree with this side. I do think that second level should come based on your individual actions and how you address people. And I've got to say, having worked in retail and hospitality for pretty much the last decade, most of the people that have been disrespectful towards me when I'm at work have been older people, simply because they think that they just deserve better treatment because of their age, and that shouldn't be the case. I've had little to no issue with people my own age, especially being like wait staff and stuff. I don't find that, and I think part of that whole thing too is like, particularly with like the boomers, like probably like younger boomers in particular, is really where like the greatest concentration of Karens exist. And they just sort of believe that because, you know, they've reached a certain age, they've had their own children who've grown up and gone on to, you know, to college and stuff, that they now know everything about life because they've been on the child side of it and on the parent side of it, and they've had all these experiences, and it's still like, you've got another, you know, 30-40 years left to live. Like, give it a while before you try telling other people how to live their lives. And I think realistically that's where this question comes from, is like, when we've got people out there who are of that age acting the way that they're acting, should they just be given respect because of their age? And I think the answer to that is no, because they are not even showing the willingness to accept that other people will live their lives in other ways. Yeah, I'm gonna leave it there. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Again, links to the articles and the Quora that I looked at in the description as well. If you are new here, please hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to hit the notification bell as well if you want to be notified when I upload new videos. If you enjoyed this one, please give it a big old thumbs up. And until next time, guys, keep your head screwed on.